Recently, the Washington Post did a report on what it called net-centric diplomacy. Basically, it was attempting to explain the background from the State Department's perspective for the WikiLeaks controversy. What happens is, everyone knows already, after September 11th, there was a great deal of pressure to create an openness to intelligence resources so that all the agencies and people involved would have access to information they would need to prevent attacks. Under this new system with the Director of National Intelligence, it was decided that the State Department would create its own computer system, and that's the net-centric diplomacy. And that this would make available State Department cables throughout the rest of the intelligence community and to the Pentagon. So the Pentagon funded this. Now, inside the State Department, you could read documents, but you couldn't copy them or transfer them to disk or download them or do anything like that. But State didn't impose any restrictions on what happened to the information once it went out into the rest of the world. And the rest of the world included almost 500,000 people in other agencies, as well as defense and intelligence contractors. This is totally different from the historic pattern of how classified information was treated. Classified information was treated on the basis of compartmentalization and access on a need to know. Very restricted, very controlled access to information. Instead, we were adopting a model of openness which was more typical of things you would hear from scientists in certain research fields, where all the information is out there and you just kind of get it. The problem with this is that there's no such thing as a secret or secrets that are known by 500,000 people. Sooner or later the secrets have to get out, and that was the case of WikiLeaks. Now people are racing to close the barn door. Many concede that serious damage has been done to America's ability to conduct its affairs, because one of the things that's important is the ability to keep secrets. The question of whether or not there are going to be legal consequences for WikiLeaks, well, you know there's going to be that for Bradley Manning, who's suspected of having released the documents. But what about the journalist, Julian Assange? The Justice Department has apparently been studying this matter to death, which seems to be what it does best, playing a game of hamster on a wheel. As a result of the Pentagon Papers case, there may be some limitations on the ability of the government to prosecute. But Assange is not the New York Times, and it may be established that he acted with a bad motive, with an intent to hurt the United States or damage the conduct of its affairs. Plus, Assange will have to face some charges that were not involved in the New York Times case. While it seems somewhat frustrating that the government spent months requesting that Assange returns the documents, one of the Espionage Act provisions requires someone who comes into possession of classified information to return it, which he didn't do. And it may even be a small thing that trips him up, the issue of public corruption. Assange apparently agreed to give Bradley Manning money for his legal defense. But in the United States, it's against the law for anyone to give a public official anything that would influence, for the purpose of influencing the conduct of government business. Are courts going to see Assange's promise to pay for Manning's legal defense as a form of public corruption? If so, he has a very open, very dangerously vulnerable position.